Hello, everyone. It's the Black Prospector, and I'm coming at you today with a correspondence that I received from a subscriber. And with his permission, I was allowed, or I am allowed, to go ahead and share his concern. And so he certainly felt that it may help some of you other guys out there. Now, first, let me say that if you have any concerns, or if you just have a question that you would like to throw at me and have me chime in on, please email me at blackprospector@gmail.com or let me know down in the comment section below. Now, as always, like and subscribe if you appreciate the content. Again, I'm going to be doing more of this as I begin to share a little bit more about some of my experiences. And if it can help any men out there, I definitely want to be able to do that. Let me go ahead and share what this gentleman gave me permission to share. He stated that he found out his wife came to him and said that she took a test to determine the personality type. The personality type that it came back and described her as was a narcissist. And he's saying that, I don't know really what to do. I find it interesting. And there are some elements of her behavior and how she is that I'm not too surprised, but what do I even do with that? And I'm going to have to think about that. And he threw it over to me as what more, can I do or what should I do? And so this is the response that I gave back to him that I'm going to share with you for some of you other guys that may be kind of dealing with this. When it comes to the term narcissism and being used on the internet, one thing that I learned some years ago is that everybody is a narcissist, claims they know a narcissist, they know how to deal with a narcissist. And I'm to the point now that, yeah, if we go back to years ago, I would have thought the same thing. I got books. I spent a lot of money on this topic and listening to people talk about it. But one thing that I also realized is, well, there's a lot of information out there, but not all of it really is actually, I'm going to say, really useful because everyone can kind of come with it. I guess the DS5 manual really kind of diagnosis of what a narcissist is. But when you really look at it, we're only talking about a very small portion of the population that actually would be diagnosed as having some kind of narcissistic disorder. Many people feel that the man in the White House definitely is one that you could ascribe that to. But I would say that anybody who inhabits the United States of America White House is probably a narcissist. I don't care what part of the political party that they belong to. So oftentimes we talk about this topic in kind of a big way. And then when something happens to us with someone, we look at traits and it's like, oh, they must be a narcissist. So I've been accused of being a narcissist. I know a lot of guys have been accused of being a narcissist. Many guys in this so-called manosphere space are said to be narcissists. And certainly many guys think, well, my woman's a narcissist. And I've gotten to the point after all the reading that I've done on the topic and all the things that I've listened to, this is just my personal assessment. We all are narcissists. Now, what I mean by that is we all have our narcissistic ways. And in a way, it's a good thing because at the end of the day, it is thinking about you, sometimes even at the expense of others, that we actually think that's really appropriate. That's not necessarily narcissistic behavior. But oftentimes, the person that really kind of gets pushed aside in order so you can focus on you, they will determine that your behavior is that of a narcissist. And when you get to my level in the game, so what? It is what it is, and who cares? Because I'm going to be a man with boundaries. But more on that in a second. My main point is, I view narcissism personally as one that is on a spectrum. In other words, there are some people that, yeah, they are right up there in the doggone psychiatric guide, diagnosis guide. They are certified narcissists. They could probably talk to a PhD therapist and they will come out and be like, yep, that person's a certified narcissist, whether it's covert, whether it's grandiose, whatever. And then there are people that are probably so far on the codependent side. And the jury is still out on whether codependency and empaths are a real thing. That they may be far from ever thinking about themselves. As they say, they would do, let's just say, self-harm to themselves and write a letter to everyone else apologizing why they did it. But if you think about it, that in a slight form of narcissism as well, because it's all about me. What are people going to think about me? What are people going to do with me when I'm out there? What are they going to look at me? What are they going to say about me? That's still a focus inwardly. And that's why I say, well, we all are narcissistic in some way, shape, or form. But particularly if we put it on a scale, on that paradigm, There are going to be some people that every single thing that they do, it may be with their own self in mind. And there are some people that are self-satisfying, or there are some people that are not that way. They're on the far end of the scale. They're very humble. They say, I'm sorry. Where many people who are on the far end of the narcissist side, they will never say they're sorry. And the traits I like to now say, and I'm going to say this to men. Ladies, you got enough shows out there. Go listen to those if you want to talk about male narcissists. It's enough out there for you. I'm talking to the fellas up in here. That's what my channel is all about. Men, many of the women that you may think are narcissists or you're involved with that are narcissists, get away from putting that label on them and just go with this. The question is, are they really a narcissist or do they just have narcissistic tendencies? In today's day and age, it's hard to tell whether a woman is a narcissist or whether she has narcissistic tendencies simply for the way that the whole dating landscape is. If you don't believe me, just go read any dating profile. All you will read about is me, 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 me. I need a man that does this for me. I want a man that does this and does this. And I laugh because I'm like, nowhere in there. And I've said this in one of my other videos. Maybe I'll put a link up to it somewhere up in here. That one of the craziest things is looking at how women sell their products. They oftentimes just sell their products as in what they don't want. I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, I don't want this, I don't want this is very narcissistic. There's nothing self-giving as this is what I would actually do for the man that I am attracted to, I fall in love with, whatever. It's just still more about I want, I want, I want, I want. But quite honestly, that's just normal female behavior these days. Some might argue, well, because many of them maybe can't do anything these days. I don't know. But that's for you to decide. But what I will say is get off of the focus on whether a woman is a narcissist or not. And so my advice to this man, you want to know, and I'm about to now give you the whole key and the secret, and I'm going to do more videos on this topic. But maybe, you can kind of say, good night, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Like Russell Simmons used to say on Def Comedy Jam. This really, for me, is the end all be all. If you want the ultimate repellent for a female narcissist, here it is. Drum roll, please. Just be a freaking man. Be a freaking man that has some boundaries. Be a freaking man that's not going to take any mess. Be a freaking man that doesn't care if she sits up there and calls you a narcissist. Be a freaking man that says, this is what I'm going to allow in my life. This is who I'm going to allow in my life. And I'm not taking anything otherwise than what I want. And that does not make me a narcissist. And if you think I'm a narcissist because I have boundaries, then maybe you yourself are the narcissist. Or maybe it's the fact that I don't care if you think I'm one or not. I'm just a man with boundaries. And if that's narcissistic behavior to you, then peace. See you later. Now, that's easier said for a man like me who's now single. But I understand because I've been there for the married man. You broke it, you bought it. I had to get to that point in my own life, regardless of whether I thought my ex was a narcissist or not. I'll never forget the best advice I got online. And this is why I won't, throw shade at people online or the whole so-called red pill community, because I know how much those guys help me. And yeah, it is a doggone swamp out there right now. But when I was probably at my darkest hour, I'm thankful for guys that I'll never know what they look like. Sometimes they just typed up something, they'd never remember me. And this is one of those cases where I shared online. I was like, at the time, my wife told me that I'm bipolar. I got ADHD. This is wrong with me. This is wrong with me. I took this test. This is wrong with me. That's wrong with me. And I was like, well, if she did this and she did that and she said this and she told me that and she blah, 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 and she's making me mad and the guy responded and was like, this guy done sheet all over himself. Boy, he didn't just sheet all over. He just sheet up the room. And y'all know what he really was saying. But the way he put it was exactly right. All I did is say she. And I was on there saying basically, so what's the best way to handle a woman who, has all of these problems. And they said at that time, the red pill is the cure to all those problems. Now, I'm not going to go into this whole red pill stuff. That's not the point of this. Because at the end of the day, being so called red pill is still about being a man. The whole red pill analogy is just waking up, realizing that that's what your role and responsibility is supposed to do. That's what you are supposed to do. That's what you are supposed to be like. That's what you're supposed to be about. Stop being focused on women. Stop being focused on whether she's comfortable, whether she feels good, whether she approves of me, whether she accepts me. That's what really the whole red pill stuff used to be about. And then it just went off into a whole bunch of other craziness now. But originally, that's why that man's advice is something that I ended up relaying to this guy now. Don't be worried about whether your wife now says, oh, I'm a narcissist, because here's the key thing. And I'm going to talk about this in future videos. You will find yourself getting played because if she is along that side, strong side of the narcissistic paradigm, where she has a lot of narcissistic traits, two things are about to happen to you. And I'm going to share these with you guys right now. Number one, what she told you, she did not tell you in order for you to, let's just say, have this information. She told you this in more of a case of, I just made a covert contract with you. Shout out to Dr. Robert Glover. I just made a covert contract with you. I just shared with you this about me, not to make our relationship better, because I want you to do more of what I want you to do. And you're not doing it enough. And I told him, you're going to realize, and I'm willing to put some money in a savings account. You put something in there and we'll have a set date where we take it out. I bet you that it won't be today, maybe next week, maybe next month, perhaps a year from now. And if you're really truly dealing with a woman who has some strong narcissistic tendencies, probably 5 or 10 years from now, you're going to be having that argument and you're going to be like, blah, 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 y'all talking. Or it's not even an argument. It may just be a heated discussion. And she's going to be like, I told you I was a narcissist and you didn't even respond to me. You didn't even help me. I needed you there for me and you didn't even help me. And I told you I was a narcissist and I did. And in this case, this woman also did some things to say, I'm trying to improve. It's like, nah, bruh. Nah. If that's the case, don't expect that information to be something to make your relationship better. That was told to you to manipulate you. And I can probably pretty much guarantee that that's what's going to happen. Eventually, if at least just keep that in the back of your mind, because that leads to the second reason and why it becomes manipulation. It becomes then, I want you to have pity on me for what I've been through in my life to get me to this situation. And that pity isn't to make me a better person, because if it really was, I really realized I got this problem with myself, then the next thing is I'm telling you as my husband, and let me go get my behind into some therapy. What likely is going to happen is nothing. Why? Because a narcissist or a person with those strong narcissistic tendencies, so I'm going to use that label because I know that's what a lot of you are, still want to focus on the label. But a person with those strong tendencies, they're not going to get help. They're not going to do it. They may buy some books, but they'll never see themselves in the book. They're going to see the other person in the book. They're never going to see how they are. They're going to focus again on the other person. And so I told him that what you will realize is that with that information being told to you, it's a covert contract. She's going to want something from you at the end of this. She's not going to go get help. That's not going to be the thing. It's going to be of how can you now change in order to make me feel better? That's what you need to do to make me feel better. And that's going to be her expectation. And how does she do that? Because now when the man starts now going into his mode of, well, maybe she's acting this way because something bad happened to her. And sometimes you guys know what I mean by something bad. I'm not going to say it here on YouTube or on social media because we know what they do to those videos. But the worst thing that really can happen to a woman outside of her being, eliminated. And it's going to be like, well, now that's your responsibility because that happened to me. And this is why I act like the devil spawn, like I'm doggone Linda Blair on The Exorcist. I do this. Maybe it's once a month on my period, or maybe now it ain't even that. It's because I got my own addictions. I got my own things going on. I do all of this. I do it now simply because you forced me to do it. I wouldn't be this way if it wasn't for you or if it wasn't for what happened to me in my childhood when I was a young woman. And now you must fix it. And as Dr. Tia San Johnson always tells us, now you take on that burden, that emotional load on yourself. She's put it on you. And again, for the single guys, you need to ask yourself, if a woman throws this on you, why are you taking on this burden for someone that you don't even know if you're going to spend the rest of your life or any time? Why would you take this investment? Why would you take this on for someone you're not invested in that much? What are you getting out of it, single man? When you find out, oh, she's had this done to her, she's had this bad fortune, she's had this. If anything, now this puts you on the so-called codependent side. Because what do? What men often do, don't worry, I'll save you. And we go out and we put on our cape and we try to swoop in to save her. And she knows this. In the words of Esther Villar, I'm paraphrasing, a woman that starts to date a man and lets him know, tells him to drive her car, and lets him know, like, wow, you're so much of a better driver than I am, she's now guaranteed to have a chauffeur for life. And women know this. Believe it. Believe it. And as Esther Villar says, we'd have it no other way. But the main point is that in the midst of this guy's wife telling him that this is my condition, and then he's thinking, well, I know what she's going through in her life, I need to help her. That means he's going to put his codependent cape on to help her. And that means, because she's never going to get help herself. And if, as many say, there's no way really for a narcissist to even change how they are, that means for the rest of his marriage, he's going to be chasing. She's going to do and he's going to chase. She's going to do and he's going to chase. And she's going to do. And everything that she does, it always comes back to, is your fault. Because if you wouldn't do, then I wouldn't do. And if you did this more, then I would do that more. And if you did this more, and then I would do that more. And it never ends. And gentlemen, if you're listening to me, it's the one thing I'm trying to tell you fools. And you're only a fool if you hear this and you don't do anything about it and you stay around. You're not a fool if you change your behavior. You're not a fool if you set boundaries. Because set them, because it's never going to change. It's never going to change. So do you want to know the ultimate repellent of a narcissistic woman? It is your boundaries. Your boundaries. Your boundaries as a man. We are in a day and age where it is far easier for women to set boundaries and for them to say, this is what I'm going to allow in my life. I can be 400 pounds, but I want to date a ripped 180-pound man. And we say, you go, girl. That's right. If that's what you want, you go get it. She set her boundary. Of course, it's wrong for you to say, as a man who weighs this morning, I was 200 pounds this morning after that cruise. Got to lose some weight. But for me to say that I'm a 200-pound man, probably sitting about 13-14% body fat right now, I don't want to date a woman that weighs more than me. And I don't want to date a woman that's over, say, do I say 20, 25% body fat? I mean, because to be honest, that's even reaching now to even have a bar set at 25%. 20%, you're pretty lean and athletic for that. I don't have that right as a man to say that because I'm not being accepting. But my point is, we're in a day and age where it's hard for a man to have boundaries, but we make it very acceptable for ladies to have boundaries. And again, for ladies that are so-called dealing with a so-called male narcissist, the environment is there for them to have boundaries in order to rectify that situation. But we don't have an environment where men feel like it's okay for them to set boundaries in order to solve that little problem, that relationship problem. So again, for those of you in the dating market, you need to set those boundaries and shut down the woman with those narcissistic tendencies, because you'll find out real fast that two things are going to happen. Number one, if you really have boundaries, your boundaries mean nothing if you don't enforce them. If you do not enforce them, your boundaries mean absolutely nothing. But let's just say you are kind of wishy-washy. Your boundaries are about as doggone pliable as some wet wood. Well, in that case, I guess even the fact that you try, she'll probably get pretty mad and upset. And just the fact that you try to put down some boundaries will probably make her reveal more of who she is. and she may just decide to go on to an easier target because there are plenty of men out here, men who grew up with single moms and wouldn't know how to set a boundary if it doggone slapped them in the face and on their behind. There are plenty of men out here that have grown up with dads who taught them how to be simps. I'll buy your clothes. I'll pay your rent. I'll cook your dinner too. As soon as I get home from work. Oh, so it's plenty of guys that grew up, and I'm not, I'm picking on our baby face generation. We can go down to the Temptations talking about ain't too proud to beg. There's a lot of those guys, my father's generation that taught us to be simps growing up. And so it's a lot of those men. Let her go to those targets. But, if that whole narcissistic fuel thing is true, she probably won't really want to run to them as much because they don't give as much fuel, which means it falls back on you, gentlemen. It's on you to set your boundaries, and it's on you to repel the narcissistic woman. So to conclude, if you want to keep the narcissistic woman away from you, you must set boundaries. They will work every time. But remember, the boundaries only work if you definitely enforce them. This is part 1 of this. I'm going to do part 2 and look for that soon. Again, if this is any help to you, like and subscribe. I definitely appreciate it. And please share it for guys that you know that may be in a situation where they're struggling with this and they think, oh, my woman's a narcissist. How do I deal with her? Share this video and some things that I'm going to share coming up shortly. Feel free to share and let's keep the dialogue going. And again, if you have any questions or anything that you don't mind me sharing or you want me to answer here on air, just go ahead and email me at blackprospector@gmail.com. So until next time, gentlemen, work on your boundaries. Figure out what they are. And then next time we'll work on how you can strengthen them. Peace.